Alright boys, so I'm up against my first task on this little Toyota. Not a new vehicle, but new to me. So it's Prius 2013, as some of you may know. I'm going to go up against the extremely challenging task of changing the oil. Not glamorous, but obviously essential, right? So we'll see how it goes. I've got the car up on the ramps here, guys. Just be careful with this because it's such, the ground clearance on this vehicle is extremely low. Luckily, this is very, very flexible indeed. So if it contacts your ramps on the way up, just a tiny bit, it's not the end of the world. Watch it going down, obviously. Make sure it's chalked, obviously, both sides ideally. Right, so we'll see how it goes. I'll show you the specs on the oil, what we're up against with access to the filter. I've never done it, so it should be interesting. Well, at least for me. In the interest of safety, so your engine doesn't unexpectedly start on you, because it can happen with a hybrid if you haven't actually shut the car down. Put the key somewhere, some distance away from your car once it's turned off, and then park, obviously. Okay, so conveniently written on the cap there is the spec of the oil you actually require, guys. 0W20, and as far as I know, 0W20 is only available in synthetic. I don't think at that viscosity you can get it in mineral oil. I could be wrong. In any case, your brand name of choice, whatever you want. Yeah, obviously you'll need a filter, tooling. You'll need a ratchet to pull the oil plug itself on the pan, 14 millimeters, and ideally, I like this kind of oil filter socket, I guess you'd call it, in order to move it. Makes things a wee bit easier. For the super interested, the filter socket is 6567-14. That's the little Fram spec or part number, which obviously correlates to the diameter of the filter. So looking underneath, let's see what we're up against. Pretty straightforward. If you've never been underneath, I think I've been underneath twice. So there's the oil pan itself. There's the 14 millimeter drain plug I was speaking of. If you're in doubt about what you're looking at, right there, that's what would be the crankshaft pulley. You'll notice, being a hybrid, there's absolutely nothing. It's really weird for me to look at that. There's absolutely nothing driven off the crankshaft. That's probably just a harmonic balance wheel, I would guess, because absolutely everything with respect to the accessories is electric on this thing, right? So yeah, there's the pan. We'll simply pull the plug, drain the oil. I don't know how long this oil's actually been here. I've only owned the car for a short time, so I thought it was probably prudent to change it, regardless of the amount of miles that are on it. And of course, the filter sits actually right here. You can see and I'll show you, I'll give you the specs in the manual here, guys. I know some of you will be sticklers for details, as I consider myself one of them, to be quite honest. I'll show you the specs in the manual. Some rags obviously is a great help, guys, in a situation like this. For the safety conscious, maybe consider some gloves and eyewear, safety glasses. Right, so the plug itself, 14 mil, as I said here, guys. If you have a light, yeah, you don't need to get fancy. Just whatever works for you, really. And can you see there, on that plug there, there's actually a seal. Don't lose that seal that sits between the plug and the pan. There's a little seal there, so don't lose that. I'll take my glove off so I don't soak it with oil. Try and retain the seal, as I mentioned. In this case, it's stuck to the pan. Just don't lose it. Don't let it go into your waste catch. And let it drain and clean up the mess. I like to do one thing at a time because I've only got one channel. It's a simple job, but it's an important one. So you can see the seal is still on there, guys. again, this is not new to anybody who knows a thing or two about vehicles. This is as basic gets, but not everybody's in that boat, so this is why I'm trying to show you the details, so you can at least attempt to do it right if you choose. Right. Get that up a wee bit. That seems reasonable. Now let's check it for the torque spec. Yeah, some torque specs on the drain plug itself. 28 foot-pounds. That sounds like a lot, but anyway, we'll see. Use your judgment. And 10 foot-pounds on the oil filter, guys, if you want the actual factory spec, but I think I'll use the instructions on the filter, which is you lube up the little gasket, of course, but we skim of oil on the gasket, spin it on until it touches, and then one turn. 28 foot-pounds. Yeah, it's reasonable. It seems a wee bit tight to me. I probably wouldn't have tightened that if I was doing it by hand, but that's what the manual calls for. So I was happy to see the Toyota filter on there. Seem to be getting the oil changed at the dealership. That's nice. Less happy, you might be able to see the indentations because I had to use my crushers. It's nice to have a couple of different oil filter tools, guys. A strap wrench comes in handy if you have the room. If you have the room to get your strap wrench in, because somebody absolutely cranked this thing on there. In which case you usually have to resort to something a wee bit more serious than this. So there's a filter. A wee bit worse for wear because somebody crushed it on, as I said. But nonetheless, it's coming off. Just let that drain for a wee bit. So we skim clean oil there on the seal. Make sure when you remove the old one, guys, that this comes with it, so it's not stuck to the block. And I like to actually just put a couple of ounces of oil in the filter. That way, when the engine first starts, there's oil in the filter as well. Not necessary, just me being obsessive. So, as I said, make damn sure that seal comes off with the old filter, guys. Clean up the machined part of the fitting. There's the filter, of course. Make sure it's the correct one. Oil up the seal, and it should just spin on. If you have to force this, something's wrong. You've got it cross-threaded. Stop. Right. So there's where it's just contacting, and now it just has to go one. I can tighten it maybe half turn by hand, another half turn with the tool, and good to go. Or 10 foot-pounds if you prefer. So from the manual, there's the spec grade of oil there, guys. Just in case, I suppose there's the off chance that somebody had to change the oil cap. And who knows where that could have came from. Unlikely, but possible. And so here's the specs with respect to the capacity. So I guess we're looking at about close to 4 liters, 3.7 liters, depending on what you're doing, I guess. Yeah, you can read it for yourself there. Check the dipstick, just under 4 liters. 5 liter jug, guys. I'm stupid, so I like to put a little reference mark for where I should be stopping, and then you can go by the dipstick. Okay, so I'm at my reference mark there. I've got about 3.5 liters, 3.7 liters of oil in there. We'll final adjust it on the dipstick once the car is on the flat, of course. We're going to do the leak check first. Something different with a hybrid, of course, is when you turn the car on, the engine won't necessarily run. So depending on, there's a few factors. I think engine coolant temperature is one of them, but if the car is up to temp, you may need to wait until, on the Prius C, I believe once the high voltage battery will deplete to about 40% capacity, the engine will start in order to rotate the motor generators to replenish the high voltage battery charge. Yeah. So yeah, so be aware of that, because it's not just as simple as going in, turning the car on, and expect the engine to operate. However, I think there's a couple of tricks that can cause the engine to run. I'll beyond the scope of this video for now, guys, but yeah, just be aware. It's not as simple as just starting the car. Obviously, there is no starter, but you need to have the car the engine running in order to perform a proper leak check, of course. Okay, I wasn't going to detail this, but I might as well in the interest of practicality. So again, when you actually turn the car on, it won't necessarily start, right? The engine, as you can hear, is not running. But by simply flattening the throttle, it will start the engine. Again, for leak check purposes, you need the engine, the internal combustion engine running in order to get movement of the oil in order to properly leak check. Warning about the key, guys. A hybrid vehicle can start unexpectedly on you if you've left the car enabled in the ready mode. It can be stationary, the engine, but depending on the conditions that prevail, a hybrid engine can start on you, obviously posing a safety hazard, and clearly not doing your engine any favors if it happens to start when you've got the sump drained, yeah? So let's go check. That's okay, it has been running. You can see there, that is just residual oil from when I had it out. There's nothing actively leaking there, guys. And again, check the filter, check the sealed periphery, all around if you can. You can see we're good there too. Right? So I guess I'll leave it at that. I don't think I need to show you adjusting the final level on the dipstick. I think that's pretty straightforward. I'm sure you guys can figure that out. Or ladies, and just in case you're a stickler for the OEM part number, again, Prius C model. Job's not done until the paperwork's done, huh? Yeah, I lied. It's not the first thing I've done on the Toyota. I've done the brakes, so I guess the second thing I've done on the Toyota, other than drive it. That's it, boys. Cheers.